Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Bridge. This is the show where we bridge you from Sunday to Sunday and bridge God's Word from our heads to our hearts as we learn to put into practice what Pastor Danny talked about during his message on Sunday. This is an exciting one. We've started the season of Advent. We've started the season of Community Matters and the giving that we do. It's a great tradition we have it here at TCACP to give back to the community. And every December we come together and try to give. So there was a cool video about Honduras and the ministry that we do there. And the pastor set an ambitious goal of $75,000 to charity this year. I think that would be awesome. So we're praying for that. We're looking for that. And we're hoping that you can contribute to that as well. If you missed Sunday's message, I encourage you to go back. The series is called A Time to Give. And we started with the first week of Advent, which was A Time to Give Hope. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's on the YouTube channel as well. Tonight we have some very special guests. We've got Kevin and Sara Huber here. So Sara, welcome back to The Bridge. And Kevin, welcome to The Bridge. So if you guys could please introduce yourselves to the E family on YouTube, that'd be great.
I'll go first. We'll probably do that the whole time. Who wants to talk first? Hi, everyone. I'm Sara Huber. Been coming to the church a really long time and helped serve on our praise team and married here to Kevin for 14 years. 14 years already.
14 years, awesome.
We have a little girl who just went to bed and we live around town and we're working from home these days and really good to be here.
Cool.
Yeah. Ditto. I'm not on the praise team, but I sit and listen.
I hear you play the guitar. Is that right?
No,
You're going to take Matt's guitar now?
I hold the guitar, yeah. You can see me running around, running after my daughter. That's about
Cool.
what I'm doing.
And the one thing, if you saw the last episode of The Bridge that Sara was on, you'll remember that Sara and I are both from Pittsburgh. Well, Kevin is as well. So we will try to be very humble, nice Steeler fans tonight and not rub it in anybody's face who won the game. But I see Sarah's adjusting her shirt, so I think that's kind of...
I'm going to clarify if there's anyone watching in my family. I'm actually from Ohio, so
That's true.
I'm a Steelers fan.
I'm sorry, I messed that up.
She's from Ohio.
It's okay.
But mom and dad are from PA.
Cool.
And so he's
Wonderful.
Yeah.
born and raised Steelers.
Well,
fan.
welcome to you and welcome to the E family at home. Again, if you have some questions or thoughts about hope, what makes you hopeful, or what are some things that kind of take away from your hope? I think that's going to be the discussion tonight, is how we can keep our hope in Jesus and we can kind of keep that focus in him, especially in difficult times. But now we're looking forward to the Christmas season, which I think is my most favorite time of the year. I know this year it'll be a little different. Probably won't get to see family the way I want to and those kind of things. But I think it's still a special time of year. So thank you guys again for being here. Before we start, I'm going to actually read through the passage that Pastor Danny read. So in this series, A Time to Give, he's going through the book of John, and he started off with John 1, which is a beautiful picture of Jesus and all he means to us. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made through him, and without him, not anything was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." I think that's a great passage, and it's super encouraging when you think about the darkness of the world that we were created in, and we think that God came to bring light to that world. If you think back, it reminds me of Genesis 1:1, where God said, "Let there be light," and boom, there was light. And what can darkness do to fight light? I think that's a really cool thing when you think about it. There's no way. The light shines. The darkness has no choice. It's gone. The darkness is gone. Because the darkness is nothing. It's the absence of light. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
When you think about that. So for you guys, what stuck out to you the most when Pastor Danny was talking about hope this Sunday? What was something that stuck out to you in the message that he gave?
For me, it was towards the end of the message he talked about, and maybe it was in the middle, I forget, but embracing the challenges that we have and looking outside of I think as humans we tend to get spun up in the situation, and I guess for me I tend to try to solve it myself. You're just doing a lot of this instead of stopping and having hope and knowing that look through that lens that you're here in that situation for a reason. And a lot of times we can look back at those times where it was difficult, that God was with you the entire time. And now you're a better person.
Nice.
Better perspective, better empathy,
I think that's a beautiful reminder to embracing the challenges. So often we want to run from them. We want to push them away. We want to just hope or wish or pray that God will just take that challenge away. It's a hard thing to do, to embrace a challenge in life. That's a really, really difficult thing to do. But I think it's a good reminder that Danny gave us. I agree. I think that's really good. Sarah, did you have something that kind of stuck out to you?
Yeah, I think similar to Kevin, but I think it's, and particularly the follow-up to the sermon on Crow Chat, when P. Dan went a little bit more into these emotions and validating the emotions, which is always refreshing. I mean, I particularly love that about P. Dan's ministry, that we can feel what we feel, and we're not wrong to feel any of that God made us so complex, and we feel things, and to know that in that feeling and in that struggle of whatever that is, that we can still choose hope, because I think hope gets
Let's pause for a minute. I think your audio is off, your microphones. Can you check your microphones? There's a cable that's connected to that. I feel like it's not coming
Gotcha.
in. Yeah, the audience is not.
Please bear with us at home. We're working on some technical difficulties. We'll get the mics back up and running.
You're on.
Yeah, it says that it's on.
Again. Are they plugged in?
It's on, it's plugged in.
Yep.
Yeah, leave it
Maybe
out.
it's just, maybe,
It's probably the transmitter. It could be the transmitter. If
wonder if
not,
that's any better.
Yeah, I think that's better. I'm getting a better gain.
All right, folks at home, can you hear us whenever we're talking? Kevin and Sarah, could you say something?
Yeah, they can.
All right.
Yeah, awesome.
We're good.
Okay.
All right, Chantal, thank you for letting us know. Thank you, Mom.
Thanks, Chantel.
And thank you, Oscar. I
always
see all you
there.
guys out there watching. We want to make sure you can hear, because I know the Hubers are saying some really cool stuff, so we want to make sure that we can hear it. So thank you. And let us know in the chat, again, if you can't hear us. Let us know what's going on as well. And again, I'll put out in the chat, what are some things that make you hopeful, or some things that kind of motivate you? I like what Sarah was just saying about choosing hope. And that's a tough thing to do as well in a situation. And how do you do that? Like, how do you, and when you're faced with a difficult challenge, how do you embrace that challenge, or how do you choose hope? What gives you the ability to do that?
I think I've learned about myself through many seasons and challenges where I did feel hopeless. I felt very hopeless over different hardships. And I think in every one of those times it was because there was fear there. And yeah, to Kevin's point about how we live through experiences and we're better, I think now I can come to understand, if I'm feeling a hopelessness, to take inventory of any fear. Because now I can look back and say, wow, you really couldn't have hope in that situation. We talked a lot about, probably the hardest thing that we've ever gone through, which was all those years of infertility, and just feeling so nervous and so concerned for so many valid reasons. But really, that there was so much fear in that. I've sensed that in jobs as well, jobs that you want to get out of, that you feel like you'll never get out of. Or where there's fear, there really can't be hope. So if we can deal with the fear, or whatever the emotion is, but that's just why I think I really resonated so much with what P. Dan was saying in the Crow Chat too, about the emotions, and that they're there and it's okay. But then we need to separate and choose hope. And I think that that's really hard to do. I think that a lot of us, I've always felt like you just get hope. Like hope just comes to you. But instead it's really through that working out your faith and seeing, what does God say about this, and working really hard to believe that. Because when fear is present, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe those promises.
100%. I can relate to that as well, especially when you mentioned the situation with infertility. It's like it's something that's beyond your control.
Yeah.
And I think that's the easiest time where fear can come in there. There's really nothing I can do to change the situation. There's really nothing, like I can see doctors, or I can see whatever, I can pray about it, but ultimately it's in God's hands, right? Whether He's going to answer that prayer or not, as far as answer it the way we want Him to. I guess I'll say it that way. Kevin, did you have something? You look like you had.
No. It's good.
Yeah. So I think but that fear aspect will come in and kind of try to rob us of our hope, I think, in
Yes.
a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best ways I think we as God's children can honor him is to persevere in hope, even when the situation looks hopeless. And when the fears are coming up and there's like nothing we can do, but my God can take care of this. You know, it reminds me of King David before he was King David, you know, and he's facing a giant and he's like, what am I going to do? And he didn't fret about it. He said, no, that guy's dishonoring my God, and my God is bigger than him, and I'm going to take care of this, and he's going to take care of it. I think it's the better way to say that.
Yeah.
He's going to take care of it.
Yeah.
But he walked in the confidence that God
Confidence.
gave him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an
Confidence.
important distinction to do when those fears are coming in. So what do you do when those fears are there? I mean, what are some things we can do to kind of combat those fears? We can pray about it, I guess, is one thing that we can do. What are some other things you might do in those situations where you're kind of afraid of what's going to happen?
Yeah. I feel like I'm talking too much.
You're just fine.
Dark, I think we expose it, because it goes back to the message and the excerpt in John that we were just reading, that the darkness cannot stay dark.
Right.
There is light, and in exposing those darkness, those fears, those deeper fears and shames and inhibitions. There's power in exposing them outside your house, like, when you're talking to family, when you're talking to friends, in a way that feels public. I think that's when it begins you can like cut the life off of it. And then that's, I think, where hope can begin to swell up in us. I don't know if you.
I feel like when you feel like you lost control and there's really no, I mean, it's going to your church family or your significant other that has belief or maybe gone through a similar situation that can share share it, talk about it, because when you start talking about it and you can share whatever you're going through, and maybe somebody is something similar, it helps put things in perspective a lot of times, and it's, maybe it's not as bad as what you thought it was, or hey, I've been there, do this, or maybe not be as much as biblical, but sharing with someone with a like-minded is helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's perfect. And I love Pastor Danny and Pastor Matt both emphasize that we have several environments here at the church. And the one they say is the most important is the small group environment, where we can actually live life together, share those burdens, and come in. And you know what? Maybe I don't have the strength to pray anymore. I've been praying about this for years. Hey, can you pray for me? Can you pray with me? Can you
pause you for a minute because their microphone is completely gone.
Okay.
For whatever reason. I'm going to get them a handheld mic though, but you can talk.
All right.
Okay.
So it's all good, Ace. We'll make it work. We'll make the technology work.
I can't hear you.
But the Steelers won, so it's all good.
Steelers.
Ron Ross pointed out that he's like, the Steeler fans are everywhere. Where are they coming from? Ron, we're all around, dude.
I'm just going to say every question you asked me, I was going to go 11-0.
11-0. 11-0. I was actually at Sam's Club helping a friend pick up a television, and I think I was wearing this sweatshirt. And a Ravens fan walked by. He said, "You're going to lose, you're going to lose, you're going to lose." And what I said to him is, I said, we all lose sometime, so it's going to happen. I said, but hey, every time the Steelers and Ravens meet, it's a good game. It's a good competition. No matter what's going on in the season, it's going to be good. And I think tonight was another example of that. It was a good competitive game, despite all of the adversity and rescheduling and COVID and everything else that we had. We were fortunate to end up on top. I'll say it that way. All right. My mom put in the chat 11-0, and Chantel put in, John, you were so diplomatic, and that's funny. Ron Ross asked, where's the hope for the Ravens? Well, we might meet again in the playoffs. I think there's hope for the Ravens there, and when they have their health back, what was that, Kevin? 2021. So Kevin said hope for the Ravens is in 2021. I think hope for a lot of us is in 2021 as well. We're all looking forward to I will encourage people out there. I know New Year's, people are going to really want to celebrate, but please hold off just until you can get the vaccine. The vaccines are coming, people. They are coming by next summer. If you just hold off, be a little patient, we're going to be just fine moving forward. So
Does this sound better?
I think that's good. All right, folks at home,
better?
can you hear
You have
Sarah?
to say if it's better now.
And are we good? Can you hear Sarah? Can you hear Kevin?
Really hold it all the way up here. Ace.
Like through your nose and your, no.
Yep.
As close as you can. No, it's
Like
good.
I'm singing.
That's a singing.
Yeah, like
mic.
you're singing. It's
Like
a
I'm
singing
singing.
mic, so
All right.
So
Got
singing,
it.
singing to the mic. So
Got
good.
it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you at home. As you realize, this is a live television experience, a live YouTube experience, I should say, here at the Church of Covenant Park, and we're glad you're a part of it. We're glad you're here, and we're glad you're bearing with us. And again, we'd love to see your comments about hope, about future, about those kind of things, and what stuck out to you in the message that Pastor Danny gave us on Sunday. I thought it was a good one. One of the things that Pastor Danny talked about is sometimes we feel the absence of a divine touch. So we're looking for God and we're seeking. Have you guys ever felt that in your life? Have you felt that God is either far away or that he's somehow missing?
I have a question for Kevin.
Nice.
Okay, because I don't mean to put you on the spot. We have not discussed any part of
Okay.
this. But I remember, and anyone who, several years ago, Kevin had a job in sales. He works for a home builder. And he had a job that he just loathed after many, many years. And it was a grinding type of job with constant stress and what have you done for me lately? And it was never enough. And it sucked the life out of you. And there were a lot of years that I remember praying and encouraging, like, you can do it, Kevin, go get him today. And I think that was probably a difficult, if you think about, a time when is this circumstance going to change? And how you found hope because you had a way of persisting through that. And you don't talk a lot about it, but I think there's probably something there.
So, yeah, I mean, it was I'm sure that a lot of people have been in a situation where you're working in a job or maybe in a position in a job where you felt like you've kind of hit the ceiling, right? And you want to move on because you're not really growing as an individual as what you would like. So, yeah, I mean, it was challenging. That's good. So, it worked out in the end. It is really, I mean, when I look back on it, I'm happy for the time that I spent in the role. And as far as, I mean, the loss of hope, sure. I mean, you're essentially thinking like, this is never going to end. And even when you pursue other avenues and opportunities and they don't pan out, then you really lose hope. And sometimes I think of this as like, hey, it's a first world problem, right? You have a job, dude. Just shut up and go to work, right? But like I said, I feel like there's a lot of people that may be in that position right now where you feel that, hey, I don't see a way out of this, but I'm doing it just to get by. And that's the way I felt. Fast forward 4 or 5 years in a much better role, growing.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, not that that's necessarily going to happen to everybody, but when I take a step back and I look at the situation that I was in at the time and how it helped me in my current role, it's like, wow, I mean, yeah, you were there the entire time and on your time, not my time. That was the big thing. It was, tell me your plans and I'll laugh, right? It's like, no, you're on my schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is tough when you're waiting to, and when you're struggling through that thing, like you said, when is this going to end? When is it going to get better? And being able to persevere in hope as well. I think it's interesting because I was thinking about, we have the 4 weeks of Advent and they each have kind of a word associated with it. So we start with hope, then we go to peace, then we go to joy, then we go to love. It's kind of a nice progression when you think about it, how you move. But you need that hope part leads to the peace part as well. That even though things are frustrating, difficult, looks like it's never going to end. If we can somehow find a way to put that fear aside and to persevere, God will give us peace, God will give us hope, God will give us joy. These are all gifts from God as well. And we can turn and look to him kind of to fill those needs and to help us through it. But sometimes life is just hard. Dry. So how do you overcome those dry times, whenever you do have those dry times?
I don't know what we do. John, we were all talking from the last episode, and we talked about just a couple different times when God has given, I think, perspectives that we've needed that have helped us get through those seasons. And when you look around and it's like, what's going to give? Something's got to give on this issue. I don't know how, I don't know when. And we're just so caught in our logic. And I thank God for the times when he's given me an illustration of myself. I often, I have 2 older siblings. I have 2 sisters. And I have learned almost everything that I know through them, whether watching them make mistakes or watching them do it right, watching them in school, in sports, as parents, in college. You learn, and I know my sisters, better than I know myself. So to have someone that you can almost look at and say, I see myself in that, it provides a perspective that we need sometimes. And God did that for me one time in a very hopeless situation. So I'll tell this story if that's okay, John.
Yeah, please do.
So we just really vivid thing that I'll probably never forget. I pray I never forget the story and the way that it happened and all the emotions with it. I was leaving church. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon, and it was one of those years that Kevin was working, so we would drive separate, and he would have to go leave early, and I was, running an errand after church, and I had passed, almost on my way to the highway, and I had passed a woman on the side of the road. And it's like I just out of nowhere saw her. I didn't see her from very far away, but I remember I could not see her, and she was panicking and trying to flag down traffic on the side of the road. And she was all by herself in a car, and she just looked terrified. And I think that's what stands out the most to me in my memory of what is wrong with this woman? And I stopped. I never stop. But again, it was like, I saw her. It was like, oh my goodness, what's wrong? And I had to stop. So I pull over on the side of the road. I'm jumping out. We often don't find ourselves on the side of a highway. And I'm like, what am I doing right now? What's going on? Why am I doing this? So I walk up and I said, what's wrong? And she was almost in tears, and she didn't speak English as her first language. And so it was broken. I could hardly understand her. And she was saying, I'm lost and I need help, and I have to get to the pharmacy. She was saying specifically she needed to get to Giant Pharmacy, which happens to be right across the street from where we lived at the time. And where we were on the road was only a half mile away from Giant Pharmacy. And any of you that are local, you might know exactly where I mean. It's right on 29 and Columbia Road. And I just remember first feeling like, why is she so panicked? Wow, she's really afraid. And this is like a stone's throw. She has no idea how close she is. I can absolutely help her. And so I began to tell her, no problem, we'll find it. And she just kept going on and on and on about how afraid she was. I can't drive. I don't know how to get there. And I got to get there. I mean, just like this incessant in this. And I felt so calm, and I felt so confident that I could help her, because I'm like, I'm so glad that this is nothing. I got this. So if anything was just logistically, we got to turn you around. I want to be able to show you the easiest way. At first I was going to give her directions, and then I was like, no, I'm going to go and she's going to follow me. That's the way we're going to do this. There's no way that I'm going to try to give her all these directions. So I'm like, listen, I'm going to get in my car. I want you to follow me. She said, do you remember this story? I called you at work when this happened. Panicking.
you're going to go too fast. I can't keep up with you. I'm a new driver. I mean, it was like a whole other set of issues that she was nervous about. And I said, no, it's okay. I'm going to go slow. We're really close. I was walking her through it. I was using this voice. I mean, this was so many years ago. I remember it like it was yesterday. And at the same time, I'm like, this is all so weird. So we get her turned around, and perfectly she follows me, and perfectly we get all the traffic lights that we need. We don't get separated with a yellow light, red light situation. And then we get to giant parking lot, and I go to the back, just somewhere out of the way, and park, and she pulls up beside me. And I figured I'd wait for her while she goes into the pharmacy. She comes out, she has what she needs. And I'm thinking the whole time, Lord, what is the purpose of this? There has to be a reason. Like, oh, you must want me to witness to her and to make sure that she's saved, right? Like, let me go do that in this last moment before I say goodbye to her. So I get out of my car. I'm like, did you get what you need? And she's, feeling good. She's relieved. She's not concerned about getting home, ironically. And I said, I know that you felt like you were afraid and you were lost, but Jesus is always with you. He is. And then she threw her hands up in the air. She started rejoicing God and praising him. And I was like, this woman she knows the Lord. She doesn't need me at all. Nice. She really just needed some navigation. And I was happy to have helped. And that was the end of it. And it was a few days later, and I just kept thinking about that whole thing. And it couldn't help. I just was like, God, why did that happen? Because I know that there's a reason for everything. And sometimes it's not ours to know. That's fine. But I really felt like this was just so strange. And it was one of those times, as we talked about a few weeks ago together, when we just sit and we just listen and we try to get really quiet. And God told me, you're the woman on the side of the road. And I thought about that and how God allowed me to play his part of leading her and saying, no, I got it. I'm not going to give you directions. I'm going to go before you. I'm going to go slow. You want me to go slow? I'll go slow. And I could see in her fear and her hesitation, and she was scared. And then I said, oh, that's me. That's me when I'm praying about this, or that's me when I'm asking for for this to have happen, or when I'm fearful of that. And it was just this amazing, how else could I have seen my fear than to have looked at it in someone else and have felt my steadiness toward her, my confidence in her. And that gave me a glimpse of how big God is in those situations, of like the biggest thing that we need. He's like, it's around the corner for me. It's just around the corner for me. And so we talked about that, and I think in that particular day I was studying the woman at the well, and so the Lord just began to show me that I am the woman at the well. I am the woman on the side of the road, frantically thinking that God's going to look past me, right? With absolutely no confidence of the things I'm praying for. Grow up, get confident. It's okay, Or like, I am the woman at the well with this broken cistern, and just keeps breaking, and we're trying to hold water and it doesn't hold, and he has it. And so those are breakthrough times when I think that hopelessness and that fear has been so gripping that you almost need to get some different perspective, however you can get it, to be able to take a step back and see yourself and decide, I don't want to be that way, right? Like, no, that's not what God's called me to do. So
that's a really cool story and a cool experience that God brought to you. I love how you can see yourself kind of, so often in life we forget about putting ourselves in the other shoes, and actually to see that God was teaching you a picture, but he did it by reversing the roles, which I thought was fascinating when you told that story as well. It's so cool to see, you're like, ma'am, it's like literally, it's like a half a mile from here. I drive by there every day. I live across the street from it. You are in luck. You found the perfect person to guide you there. I can take you there. And I like what you said, especially when you said, for God, everything is right around the corner. Nothing is difficult for God. Everything is easy for God. And for us, we get so frantic and we get so untrusting. And it's like we feel like we're abandoned on the side of the road and there's no hope and we're never going to get to the pharmacy or we're never going to get to whatever step that God has. And I think it's a great contrast that you had there with the fear and the hope. And I think you said it well earlier on when you talked about there's fear that comes to take away our hope, to take away our peace, to take away our joy, that fear. And I think Scripture says that perfect love drives out fear. So ultimately, I think the big take home for me from Danny's message is that our hope is Jesus. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the darkness can't overcome that light. So we go back to that again. So oftentimes we feel like we're in the dark. We feel like we can't see. We feel like we have no way to get from point A to point B because it's dark. And God's like, I'm light. I got this. Just calm down. It's good. And sometimes I think maybe he'll let us kind of flip out for a while too, because I think that's perhaps kind of like what you said earlier, Kevin. It's how we grow when we embrace that struggle or that difficult time, rather than him magically just pick you up and move you to the pharmacy in this case, or move you to where you're going. No, we're gonna walk through this together. I'm gonna be with you. I'm gonna be in front of you. Sometimes I'm gonna carry you, but we're gonna get through it together. And I think that's a really cool thing. I imagine you guys see that. I know Ellie's still pretty young, but I bet you see that as parents too, as you're trying to teach her something new. And have you seen that at other times where she gets afraid, or she needs kind of help through those kind of things?
Yeah, just with one child, and this is our first, so for us, it's she's going to have to learn the hard way a lot of times. So she's going to fall, and you got to be okay with that. And there's just things that she's going to do where you're going to have to take a step back and say, okay, I've told you enough. Like, we've talked about this. It's just going to happen now, right? Or, she's trying to climb up on the couch, and you just want to walk over and, right? It's like, no, she's got to learn how to do that, right? Because we're not always going to be there. And it as simple as that, it turns into, oh, you did this here, and right, and then you become a crutch. So, it's hard as a dad to see that, right? I hear her crying, and my instinct is to go to her, but there's times where she just needs to cry. Yeah.
That must be so tough to let her cry.
Yeah, for the parents out there, I'm sure they know it's like the knife in the heart twist. Yeah.
Kevin is the softie, though. He succumbs to it every night and goes in and can't stand the crying. And I'm like, it's crying. It's all right.
But part of it is we want to sleep. So the sooner that I go in there and calm her down, the sooner that we can go back to bed.
The sooner you can go back to sleep.
But it's perpetual. It just doesn't stop. Just put a couple nights of like really bad sleep, and then you'll be okay. But I'm just like selfish, and I'm like, I want to sleep. So go in and grab her.
Yep. So, folks in the chat, Oscar said, Sarah, you're a gifted storyteller. So, and he thanked you for that story. I think that's really cool. Ron Ross is saying, doing the next right thing. So, oftentimes when we're afraid or when we're in the darkness, Ron, I think that's a great point, and that's one of Pastor Matt's favorite things to say. Do the next right thing. Trust the process. Do the next right thing. Take that step. Yeah, and I think that's a really good one. And Ron also said small miracles are still miracles, and that's true too. So often we take God for granted, and we take the little things for granted. But to that woman that day, you were God's miracle, right? God provided you to get her from the side of the road to the pharmacy, even though it was a half mile away, and you're like, she totally could have done this. But for her, she could have.
I'm convinced she was an angel.
That's awesome.
I think she was an angel, because when I replay that in my mind, it like how she wasn't afraid to get home. Where was home? Where was she going? And I think, the joke was on me that I thought I was helping her, but she allowed me to play a role that taught me what I needed to know spiritually to trust.
Nice.
Right. But I'm like, that was probably an angel. I think she was.
Nice. Well, in some ways, whatever she was the blessing of God in your life. And God brought that insight to you, and now you can tell that story, and everyone in our EFAM can hear it and can be encouraged by it. And I think that's really cool. it's great to be in tune with what God is doing and to keep our eyes open. And I think, too, when we're afraid or when we're running or when we're frantic or when we don't take the time to pause and kind of take stock in what's around us, we'll miss the blessings of God. Like, he's blessing you each and every day in so many ways. And I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, I would love to at the end of the day, sit down and think back on the day. What are all the ways that God blessed me today? Whereas I'm already thinking about tomorrow. Like, other things, I'll look at my calendar. I got this meeting, I got that meeting, I got this to do, I got that to take care of. We got to do this, that, and the other. People with Christmas time as well, got to get this present, got to get this, and everything, all of the arrangements for the holidays and everything else. It's so easy to get wrapped up in those and to miss kind of the blessing of God, to realize that, Christmas season is all about Jesus. It's all about the light of the world. It's all about the great gift that we've received. And sometimes we need to just sit and enjoy that gift and take stock in that. I think that's an important thing for us to do. And but in the franticness of life, I think that's perhaps one of the side effect benefits of the pandemic is we've had some time to kind of sit, breathe, take a breath, take stock, spend time with our family, perhaps in ways that you didn't have the opportunities to before because people are at home more. And I think, so there are good things when we look at it. Even like I said, I mentioned earlier about the vaccines, the fact that we have a vaccine candidate, multiple of them that are proving pretty good this fast. All of us think, this has been forever. But those vaccines usually take 3-4 years to make. And what a miracle this would be, that if we got one in 8 months, 9 months, whatever it was, there's a lot of things we can be thankful for. And I think being thankful can help us too in those hopeless times or those pieces. You know what, God, I'm going to thank you even if the situation is challenging or remains challenging, or even if you feel distant, that absence of the divine touch. Well, I feel it, but I know, God, that you're there. And I know that you're not going to leave me, you're not going to forsake me, you're not going to forget about me. That's such a big blessing that we have in Jesus. So I think that's really good. So, yeah. So everyone's chatting in chat land. They're all talking again about Sarah, you being an awesome storyteller. And Ace just asked if we want to hear you sing as well.
We got a yes.
And everyone's saying yes, wow, sure. I'm not going to put you on the spot. You don't need to sing unless you really feel moved. But the crowd does have rights, and they are asking. Sarah's like, no, I'm going to pause. Kevin, do you sing?
No. 0.0.
0.0. Well, that's good. And I think it's been, I mean, there's so much there. Another thing that Pastor Danny said during the message that really hit me was he said that God values how you feel because God has feelings too. And that one I was like, whoa, I was like, that. What did you guys think when he said that? Did that stick out to you at all?
Loved it.
Yeah, I guess we forget about that sometimes, that we were made in his image and likeness, right? Mm. So, of course, right? I mean, he absolutely cares about what we feel. Yeah. I really like that as well.
Yeah. I love that we have a God who can relate to us. I love that Jesus decided to become a man and can relate to us in so many ways. And we think about the struggles or the challenges or the feelings that we face and deal with, and then to think that God has those feelings even on a greater scale. We see injustice in the world and we get all fired up and ticked off and want to go to action. Imagine how God feels, when he does it. And the notion that what we do or say or how we behave can affect how God feels. That one blows my mind too when I think about that as well. I'm not a father, but I can imagine as a father, when Ellie does something that makes you happy, that's such joy. But when she does something that's defiant, I imagine, or it can be such, I don't know. You guys describe it to me. Like I said, I'm not a parent, but I imagine children can affect parents in a way. And I think that analogy, when God says that he's our heavenly Father, I think that analogy applies, and we can kind of see that in our lives. They're still calling for you to sing, Sarah. I'm just
Wait, do you play the guitar?
No, he doesn't play the guitar. Do you, we can't offer a
There's no performance. There's no
just-
performance.
No.
Yeah.
If you guys want to hear Sarah
Yeah.
sing, she will be on the praise team. She is on the praise team.
I
and she
don't
will
think I'm
be
singing the rest of this year, though.
So it'll be next year. You're gonna have to tune in. But if you go back, there have been rehearsals and
That's
weeks
true.
where Sarah did sing. So if you look
That's
back to
true.
some, we did a rehearsal outdoors, and you sang, and there have been other ones as well that we've live streamed that you've been a part of. So there's definitely ways that you can go back and hear Sarah singing. Please do check that out
I just
because
don't
she
know what
does
to
have a
sing.
beautiful voice. She's thinking about what to sing.
I think, you just get you draw a blank. Like, what would I sing?
Your
I would
default song.
sing, I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice. I used to sing this
Hey,
when Ellie was little. I used to sing it on my way to work.
we all fell asleep now.
To worship you, all my heart. Take joy, my King, in what you hear. Let it be a sweet, sweet sound. Let it be a sweet, sweet sound in your ear. That's
That
my
was beautiful.
That's my
Thank you.
default.
Thank you. And earlier tonight, we all lost hope because the microphones weren't working and there were problems. And Ace is like, this is the worst bridge ever. This is the best bridge ever. Clearly, we had the wrong mic, Ace. That was the problem. We needed a mic that Sarah could sing into because that was beautiful.
Well, after I found a solution, we figured, no, the show must go on. We're not stopping
The
this
show
thing.
has to go on.
Right, that is.
I
that-
think that there is something biblical to that, Ace. The show goes on.
Right.
How much? Who's run a marathon in the chat box? We should see where our athletes are because I feel like Kevin and I relate a lot as athletes. We both do CrossFit now.
Wow.
Kevin 12 times more than I do.
Mm,
He's so faithful to go.
nice.
But I ran cross country in college, and he was quarterback in football, and he'll never tell anybody that.
Wow.
And that's how we met during sports camp our freshman year. And I always feel like running, especially as a sport, helped me develop a sense of my faith.
Mm.
And if for all those, a lot of people take up marathons, or whether your marathon is a 5K or whatever version, but you all find that moment where it's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And you have to tell yourself, just put one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, rather. And I remember it I ran one marathon after being a long distance runner all those years. I'm like, I got to run a marathon. I legit have to run a marathon. I can't say I'm a long distance, so let me just get this out of my system. And I remember I ran it at mile 24. So you're not even almost done. You still have a solid 20 minutes left at the rate I was going.
Wow.
And you're like, what am I doing? And you have this delirious moment. We've all been there where you find yourself and you just have to keep going, right? And I remember telling myself, just put another foot in front of the other, Sarah. You
Nice.
have to just walk. And I remember even being like, how do I do that? Everything was just mush. But the show must go on, is what Ace said. And that's the way that's the way it is spiritually. And when we're hopeless, it's get yourself together
Yep.
and go.
Yep.
Don't God is with you, but you got to find a different gear
Yeah.
and go and
Yep.
keep going. You can't just get stuck.
I'll tell you what, Sarah, you're lighting up the chat over here because we got lots of comments about marathon. Marathon was a good
See,
thing as well.
marathon is a hot topic. It's good. It's good to ask.
Johnny Crow said, I have run several marathons
Yeah, you have.
of eating. So Johnny you will never defeat Johnny in eating. He's awesome at that. Ron Ross said he had Big Soar Marathon 1986. So that is awesome. Go you, Ron Ross. That is awesome. And
amazing
Johnny said, I have never felt my need for God more than when I run. And I think that's important too. When you think about running that race, Paul used that analogy throughout a lot of his letters, where he's talking about run as if to win, run, seek after the prize, and actually press onwards to run. And like you said, when you get to I've never run anything close to a marathon, so I can only imagine what mile 23, 24, and you want to go beyond that. But that notion that we have to persevere, that life, that we're running a race. race. And we have to run as if to win. And there are times where you're winded. There are times where you're exhausted. There's times where you have to press through, hit that wall, and keep going. But that's such a difficult thing to do. That said, there's a lot we can do in preparation, right? You wouldn't just go out today and try to run a marathon.
Yeah, this is
you
true.
actually
That's
follow some
very
sort of a
good.
plan
That's
where
right.
you might run 1 mile
Condition.
today and then another, and people follow those plans for a couple months in preparation for a marathon so they can go and do the actual marathon. And the thing that always blew my mind is I think a lot of those plans, like you don't ever run the full 26 before the day of the marathon. Like
You
that,
don't.
that day
You
of the
don't have
marathon,
to.
you're going to
Isn't
go
that
out
crazy?
and that's when you're going to get
You
your
go to
first
20.
to 20. Is that how
If
it works?
you can do 20, you can do 26.
Wow. See, like I said, I can't.
Isn't that weird? And if you can do 4, you can do 6. So if you're hesitant to run a 10K, you really just need to master 4 miles. And if you can do that comfortably and strong and well, then you can do a 10K. You can do 6.1.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing our bodies do.
Yep.
At the end of that marathon, that was the marathon in DC that ends on a hill.
You're going up the hill or down the hill?
Up. No, it ends on an uphill. And it's funny, like when you're all in your stable right of mind, you don't notice it's a hill. But
Yeah.
after you've been through it and you feel like you're not able to finish and just mentally you're just beat and done. Maybe I should have conditioned more. I don't know. I really had a hard time. And Kevin actually ran. He was like, he kept showing up throughout all different parts of DC to cheer me on.
Oh, that's awesome.
I wasn't running, I was riding a train.
He was riding the train, but he
So you
kept
jump
like,
on the metro and then pop
he
up?
kept showing up, and I was like, oh, there he is again.
That's awesome.
And he showed up at mile 26. Well, there's 0.2 of a mile left at mile 26. And I was like, I'm done. And it was a hill. Do you remember how defeated I felt? I
wow.
started crying. I said, there's a hill. Why is there a hill?
No.
And he got in the race. He crossed over the tape. He jumped in, and he ran beside me. And in the photos they take at the end of the aerial shot when you cross the line, Kevin is behind me, stepping aside. He wasn't going to cross it, but he brought me all the way to the end.
Oh, awesome.
And it was just like this, again, like just not only is that was a wonderful moment for us in our relationship, but it was like, you know, how you said, you get people to rally with you and take a leg of it with you.
Yeah.
And the strength that you draw from that of just mentally being able to share it and unload it is so powerful.
Absolutely.
I feel like we can make a Hallmark movie out of this whole.
Maybe.
Hallmark
Maybe.
movie. I like it. Ace is
Call
calling for a
him up.
Hallmark movie. I like it. Well, even through this past year, this pandemic, I can't think where I would be without my family and my friends, my church family. There's just so much. It's such a challenging time of life, you know, and I would hate to try to do that alone, even though sometimes the contact we had was over Zoom because that was the only safe way to do it. But I think, Kevin, you pointed that out early on, and we go back to the whole, we have to do this life together. We can't do it alone. So that's such a blessing. And that's a beautiful story too, where you're running the marathon and you're jumping on the train and getting back up to encourage her and to encourage her and to encourage her. That is really cool stuff. And I think that's something that we need to look for. And I think that's the way we can be the light of the world and bring hope to others as well. How can we encourage those around us? How can we make a plan to do it? Because you had to plan that out. You had to look at the map and go, I'm going to jump on the train here, and then I'm going to pop out here, and then oh, there, I see her there, now on another train, and go. That's really cool. I love that story. That's really, really good. That's really good. Yes, and Mama Nettle says, you're a sweetie, Kevin. That's so right there. And Ron Ross said the best part of a marathon is carb loading the night before. So that is probably true as well. So cool. Well, do you guys have any last things you'd like to share with our eFam and folks here on the bridge?
Before we came, I was reading through the notes, and I asked Sarah, I was like, what does hope mean to you? And what did you say? It was something about what's it all for? What did you say? She said, "Don't steal it," which I'm not.
What's the point of it?
Yeah, what's the point of it?
What's the point of it?
Yeah.
If you don't have hope, like what's
Because I guess
the point of it?
Yeah, I mean, like I thought about it all last night, and I was like, well, hope, like at the secular sense, is almost like you're wishing for it, right? Like where I work, they're saying, everyone says it, hope's not a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Because you're just like, I hope it happens,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But as Christians, your hope is it's almost like an expectation. Like it's your hope in what God promised us, and
Right.
and you're the outlook, and you say hope. I hope in Christ. Like
Yeah.
I expect it's going to happen, not I hope it's going to happen. So I think that, and kind of tying in the whole hope with Advent, and
Nice.
I just for folks that what does hope mean? It's you're going into expecting I'm going to get through this, or God's going to see me through this, or God's with me the entire time.
Nice.
I'm going to be better for this. I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to look back and go, I'm glad. Maybe not glad, but I'm glad I went through that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that a lot. That notion that our hope is not a wish upon a star. It's a hope in the person of Jesus Christ. It's the hope in the God, the creator of the universe, and the hope that he gives us. It's so much more than that. And knowing that he's with us, especially in the dark times, the fear is strong and the fear is powerful. And we've got to look to the light when we're in the dark times, and we have the opportunity to do that. And I think that's such an important thing to do. I actually found something that somebody posted on Instagram today, popped up, and it reminded me of you guys and kind of the story that you were telling the last time you were on here, Sarah. And it says, just because it's hard doesn't mean God's not in it. Just because it hurts doesn't mean that he can't use it. Just because you feel alone, it doesn't mean that he's not working. And just because no one on earth applauds, it doesn't mean that heaven is not cheering you on. And just because others are against you doesn't mean that God's not for you. I thought that was a good kind of reminder. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that God's not in it. And so oftentimes I think we feel that hard thing and we want to give up. Even like you said, Ellie trying to climb up on the couch. She's got to learn to do that. And sometimes it's hard, and God's like, yeah, but you got to learn because I'm going to prepare you for the next thing and the next thing as well. So thank you guys. I mean, these are great stories. You guys are welcome on the bridge anytime. And I'm so glad you were here. And I'm so glad we could talk. And it's so nice to hear your story.
I don't want to gloss over either. Pastors, which one of his, was it John that got hit by the car?
I don't know which son it was. I thought it was one of the twins.
Okay.
But I'm not sure which one.
He's actually never revealed who it was. I've heard that story about 3 times now, and we've been going
Yeah.
9 years, 10
Yeah.
years. Is it
Yeah.
the first? Okay.
No,
So
'cause that's the second time I've heard it, and he's never said.
Yeah.
Never said
And I was like, if it was John, it makes sense. 30 years later. Sorry, John.
You should see the car if it was John, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the chat to see if Johnny's saying. The last thing we have from Johnny is amen to
Sorry,
that
John.
Jesus gives hope. So we got there. And then Kevin took a little shot. Yeah, I think it was one of the twins, but I'm not sure. Yep, Johnny said it wasn't me, it was one of the twins.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was listening to it, and I was like, I wonder
yeah.
if that was John.
Yeah. So that's funny. We got some good laughs out in the chat land. So all right. Well, thank you guys again for being here. I'm going to close with a song recommendation because I always do. And this is an older song, but it's a good one. It's by Third Day. And I always misheard the title of this song. So it's Third Day. It's My Hope Is You. I thought it was My Hope Is In You, but it's actually just My Hope Is You. And it's a song about Jesus. It says, to you, O Lord, I lift my soul. In you, O God, I place my trust. Do not let me be put to shame, nor let my enemies triumph over me. My hope is you. Show me your ways. Guide me in truth. In all my days, my hope is you. And that guide me, I think back to your story of the woman on the side. You were guiding her. God was guiding you. But our hope is Jesus. And it's simple. It's direct. And we think about Advent and we think about the coming, waiting for Jesus, the Messiah, to come. The nice thing is where we are, he's already come. He's already accomplished everything we'll ever need. So again, thank you guys for being here. E-Family, thank you for being here, for bearing with us through the technical difficulties. Sarah, thanks for singing. Kevin, thank you for the great insights, both of you guys.
Thanks.
Have a good night, everyone, and we will see you next Wednesday on the bridge. Have a good one.